You try to cross the street, but there's no space between the bodies. Shoulders brush against yours, warm breaths hit your face, unfamiliar hands press your back forward without asking permission. No one apologizes. No one slows down. The human flow simply continues, as if you were just another object being carried by the current. The air is heavy. Every breath brings the smell of old sweat, damp fabric, and something slightly sour that seems to linger in your throat. People coughing doesn't draw attention. A dry cough appears to your left, another right behind you, then one more ahead. No pause. No concerned glance. Just the constant sound blending with the noise of wheels, footsteps, and overlapping voices. You grab the handrail to avoid falling when the crowd pushes again. The surface is sticky, warm from the contact of dozens of hands before yours. Someone sneezes too close. Another wipes their nose on their sleeve and keeps walking. The movement doesn't allow anyone to stop. Stopping means being crushed against someone who also cannot stop. People compress themselves into lines, narrow doors, tight passageways. Bodies share the same space for too long, too close together. The vapor of collective breathing creates a light haze that gathers in the enclosed space. You feel the heat rising, even without fully understanding where it's coming from. No one seems to notice the discomfort. Conversations continue. Bags change hands. Children are pulled by the arm so they don't disappear among hurried adults. A man walks by coughing continuously while holding his chest, but no one moves away. There's no possible distance there. You realize that everyone shares the same air, the same involuntary touch, the same objects passing from hand to hand throughout the entire day. Repetition turns everything into routine. Constant contact stops feeling strange. The risk stops being noticed. And while the crowd keeps moving forward, compressed and silently accustomed to absolute proximity, something invisible follows every step. Circulating alongside everyone else, without hurry, without interruption, simply waiting for the next body to continue its path. If you think you already understand how great cities emerged, maybe you've never seen what truly happened inside them. Take a moment to check if you're already subscribed to the channel to follow real stories lived in the past. The flow doesn't end when you leave the narrow street. It simply changes direction. Carriages move slowly, forced to share space with vendors, workers, children running between wheels, and restless animals. The sidewalks seem too small for the number of people appearing from every direction at the same time. Every corner spills out new faces, new voices, new bodies, joining the continuous movement. Shop windows display fabrics, food, and utensils, while people crowd in front of them without truly stopping. The pushing and shoving is part of normal circulation. You quickly learn to walk without looking back, because someone always occupies the space you just left. Constant physical contact stops being perceived as intrusion. It simply becomes the correct way to exist there. A distant metallic sound announces the arrival of an overcrowded public transport vehicle. People step in before others can even get out. Hats press against fogged windows, and the interior seems to breathe together, hot and saturated. Doors close while arms are still searching for balance. The journey continues like this, with passengers switching places countless times throughout the day. The city grows before your eyes with no visible pause. New buildings rise among older constructions. Narrow corridors connect increasingly dense neighborhoods. And crowds travel similar routes every morning and every late afternoon. Workers move in the same direction, return through the same streets, and repeat the same route the following day. Without realizing exactly when it happens, you begin to notice that you are in Paris at the end of the 19th century. The city is expanding rapidly, attracting people from different regions who arrive in search of work and remain packed together wherever space is available. Nothing about this seems extraordinary. On the contrary, constant proximity is the clearest sign that the city is alive, functioning exactly as it should. And the more it grows, the more people begin to share the same paths, the same enclosed spaces, and the same air that never seems truly empty. The crowd exists because everything around it demands constant proximity. Work begins early and concentrates thousands of people at the same hours, crossing the same narrow routes toward factories, workshops, and markets. Walking long distances is common, and sharing space is not a choice but a direct consequence of how the city operates. Neighborhoods grow faster than any planning can keep up with. Buildings are erected to accommodate as many residents as possible in limited areas. And small apartments house entire families, sometimes sharing rooms with other newly arrived workers. Ventilation is rare. Windows remain closed during the cold and are opened only enough to relieve the heavy air on the hottest days. Water arrives through public fountains or shared containers. Buckets pass from hand to hand throughout the day, used for drinking, cooking, and cleaning. The concept of contamination does not yet guide everyday habits. The priority is simply ensuring that everyone has access to what they need to keep working the next day. Objects circulate constantly among strangers with no concern beyond their immediate usefulness. Public transportation concentrates even more people in reduced spaces. Wagons, carts, and underground passages gather exhausted workers after long shifts, creating enclosed environments where the air remains still for far too long. Coughs and fevers do not interrupt routines because missing work means losing income essential for survival. The climate contributes silently. Long winters keep environments closed, while humid summers intensify odors and accelerate the deterioration of food exposed in the streets. Markets operate continuously, with meat, fruits, and bread handled by dozens of hands before reaching the final consumer. None of this seems inappropriate to those who live there. On the contrary, each practice represents a logical adaptation to the available conditions. The city depends on the constant circulation of people, goods, and human labor. Proximity is not a flaw in the system, it is the very mechanism that keeps everything functioning. And within this continuous, invisible, and repetitive functioning, the same human roots end up connecting bodies that would never otherwise meet, sharing far more than just the urban space. Early in the morning, the streets still damp from the previous night already received the first hurried footsteps. Puddles mix with the dirt accumulated along the uneven stones, forming small streams that run along the edges of the roads. Carriages pass, splashing droplets, while vendors arrange food directly on open stalls. Exposed to the air and the constant touch of customers, the smell changes as you move forward. Freshly baked bread mixes with the odor of animals, burned coal, and clothes that never fully dried. In narrow corridors between tall buildings, the wind barely circulates. The air remains trapped, carrying invisible particles that travel throughout the day with whoever passes through. Inside the homes, space is limited. Beds are shared in different shifts by workers who rarely meet while awake. Sheets remain damp due to the lack of time or conditions to dry them properly. One person's breathing fills the same enclosed space hours before another arrives to rest. At workplaces, the pace does not slow. Workshops gather dozens of people side by side, bent over machines or benches, speaking little to conserve energy. Body heat accumulates quickly, and open windows only partially relieve the stifling atmosphere. Coughs appear frequently, followed by short pauses before work continues as if nothing had happened. At midday, markets fill again. Coins change hands repeatedly, food is touched, inspected, returned, and then offered again to other buyers. Reused cups circulate in busy taverns, passing from customer to customer after quick rinses. The water used soon returns to the streets, joining other waste that follows the same path. In the afternoon, transportation fills up once more. Tired bodies lean on one another to maintain balance during the journey. Collective heat creates small clouds of vapor on closed windows, while breaths overlap in an irregular rhythm. Someone begins to sweat intensely. Another shivers, despite the warm environment. Nothing interrupts the movement. As night falls, the streets remain crowded. Homes receive their residents again, bringing with them everything that was touched throughout the day. Wet shoes cross narrow floors, clothes soaked with odors are hung in shared spaces, and the indoor air slowly becomes denser than the air outside. Each isolated gesture seems insignificant: a handrail held, a coin handed over, a shared cup, a door pushed by dozens of hands. But continuous repetition connects all these moments. What begins on one corner moves through markets, workshops, vehicles, and homes without encountering visible barriers. And so, without announcement or disruption, something invisible accompanies the collective routine. Moving at the same speed as the crowds, multiplying silently with every contact required for the city to keep functioning. As the weeks pass, certain signs stop drawing attention. A worker who has been absent for a few days returns thinner, quieter, and takes his place again without explanation. Another disappears from the routine permanently, quickly replaced by someone newly arrived who learns the job simply by watching the others. Continuity matters more than any individual absence. Inside the homes, exhaustion accumulates even before nightfall. Children share the same space where adults cook, rest, and sleep. Nighttime coughs pass through thin walls, repeating across different apartments like a constant sound of the neighborhood. Rest is rarely complete. The body must return to work before it has fully recovered its lost strength. Fevers appear without clear warning. Some people keep working while their own body heat rises, leaning against benches or walls to maintain balance. Short pauses replace true rest. Homemade remedies circulate among neighbors, shared in the same way as food and utensils, offering temporary relief just enough to get through another day. In markets and streets, children accompany adults from an early age, learning to move through dense crowds. Small hands grip clothes or bags tightly so they won't get lost in the constant flow. Childhood illness does not significantly alter the rhythm of families. Quick adjustments allow routines to continue even in the face of visible fragility. In broader neighborhoods, some homes have larger windows and less crowded rooms. The air seems to circulate more easily, and silence replaces part of the constant noise of denser areas. Even so, carriages and visitors connect different parts of the city daily, making any separation only partial and temporary. Repetition turns loss into something expected. Quiet funerals happen often enough that they do not interrupt the functioning of the streets. Shops open normally the next day, workshops keep their schedules, and transportation remains full. The city absorbs each absence without changing its overall movement. For those who live there, suffering does not appear as an extraordinary event, but as continuous wear, spread over time. Bodies adapt as long as they can, slowing their pace only when it is no longer possible to keep up with the others. And even then, the space left by someone is quickly filled by another, keeping intact the constant circulation that sustains all urban life. Little by little, small changes begin to appear without drawing much attention. Some streets undergo prolonged construction, opening space for underground channels that promise to carry waste away from the surface. The process is slow, frequently interrupted, and limited to certain areas. While entire neighborhoods continue functioning exactly as before, new recommendations circulate among doctors and authorities, suggesting better ventilation in indoor spaces and additional care with the water people consume. Not everyone fully understands these guidelines, and many do not have the practical conditions to follow them. Windows remain small, homes stay crowded, and daily work continues to be the absolute priority. Public fountains are gradually modified, and certain regions receive more organized water distribution systems. The difference is noticeable only to those who observe carefully over the years. For most people, routine remains practically identical, with the same crowds occupying the same routes. Some establishments begin adopting more frequent cleaning practices, motivated both by new ideas and by the attempt to retain customers. Damp cloths replace the visible accumulation of dirt, and odors diminish in certain interiors. Even so, the intense circulation of people continues, connecting all parts of the city without significant barriers. Hospitals undergo quiet reorganizations, expanding areas intended for patients with similar symptoms. Knowledge about disease advances slowly, but reaches the population unevenly. While some professionals debate new theories, workers continue facing long shifts that make any meaningful change in daily habits difficult. Nothing happens suddenly. The transformation does not immediately eliminate the risks accumulated over decades. Many who lived through the most intense periods of these conditions never fully realize the improvements that slowly begin to appear. The city changes, but it does so at a quiet pace, almost imperceptible to those too busy simply trying to get through another day. Over time, some streets become wider, the air seems to circulate more easily, and certain habits disappear without anyone marking the exact moment of change. Movement continues, but it no longer produces the same constant density as before. New generations cross the city without fully realizing how those spaces were once occupied in a different way. Traces remain only in nearly invisible details: old buildings adapted over time, narrow passages hidden between larger avenues, brief accounts that survive in fragmented memories. Routine moves forward, slowly replacing what once seemed inevitable. Even so, crowds continue to exist in different places, sharing the same air, the same routes, and the same unavoidable contact that accompanies collective life. The scenery changes, the faces change, but human movement remains. And somewhere, far from there, people cross spaces that are too crowded without realizing that risk can also move silently among them. As ordinary as the simple act of moving forward. If this kind of story helped you see the past in a different way, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, each video reconstructs real experiences with details that usually go unnoticed, showing how everyday life quietly shaped the world far beyond the major events we tend to remember. And now, take a moment to continue watching the next video appearing on your screen.